my coaching ended up firing two senior executives.
So, episode 12 with Coach Charbel Abou Hanna. He's a business strategist. He gives self-development tips on his channel on Instagram. And he's a coach in public speaking. And please correct me if I'm wrong, you're a public speaking champion. So,
Look,
yeah. So, Coach Charbel, you do business strategies. You're a business strategist. You offer strategies to business. What does that mean in definition?
well, first of all, business strategy is a very big word. So it's not just creating a strategy for a company to follow. Strategies are differently aligned within a company. So you can start by creating a strategy for a company, and then you can have functional strategies, which are based definitely on different functions and processes or departments within each company. There's two types of strategies. Let's start with this. Uh, there's the internal and there's the external ones. The external ones is how you're taking this entity and you want to scale it or grow it or put it in a market where it should belong or it wants to penetrate or it wants to scale in an existing market where it's doing good. And there's the internal strategies where each entity is like an engine. So it's all parts that are combined together to generate an output. So sometimes the company is doing great, but internally it's very screwed up. So the aim is always to create an alignment. The aim of a strategy is alignment. So either we align everything that's happening internally in the company to help on the output and to put more on the output without putting too much cost or trying to infiltrate or reign, if you want, a new segment or a new market wherever that company wants to go.
Yeah.
That's
So,
an imprint.
yeah, so basically, what type of clients come to you? What type of businesses, whether big, small, medium, big corporates maybe, or do can businesses come if they do not have a problem, maybe that want to uncover something, or do they usually know what they want?
Well, the people who connect with me normally now mostly are SMEs. SMEs because they start young, they start fresh, they go into the market, they create market traction, and eventually they land on a product market fit and they launch from there. But after that point, everything becomes very heavy or very blurry on them. So this is where I come in and try to align this company's mission on how it should proceed and whatever internal dynamics is required so that they are pretty much very good on the functional side without putting too much cost and effort on the teams that are developing that product or the service. Big companies normally don't tend to come to individuals because two main things. First of all, big companies do have a strategic management department within the company. So if you're aiming at a 10,000, 15, 20,000 employee company, that already has a strategic management department. So they don't need outside help to help them maintain on that. Sometimes you might get called to coach that team on at least how to be able to vision whatever is coming in a coaching approach and not to help them formulate the strategy. So you'd
Yeah,
be the mediator or the person who scratches their mind just to be able to grab new things within their mind. Um, and you don't need a problem to come to create a strategy. Definitely not. You don't want to be in a problem. That's the
yeah,
main
yeah,
aspect. If you're in a problem, you have a huge issue. So the aim is to try and formulate from the start everything and be attentive to everything so that you don't end up in a problem because problems cost money. And eventually that's the aim. We're going to aim, we help you try to create something, be better at something, infiltrate, take over a specific market, create demand or whatever it is that you want to do without having a problem or without incurring additional costs. So problems equal to costs. If you have that, then we have a bigger issue than,
yeah.
than just having requirements for a strategy.
Yeah. So so now we understand what is business strategy as a general term. But in your case, as Coach Charbel specifically, for example, if you want to take the first step, maybe when you get the call from a potential client, or when you not just get a call, or maybe let's leave it at this scenario: you get the call and you did not close a deal yet, or you did not agree on anything yet. but you're gonna have your first meeting to assess stuff, I think. Walk me through the process from uh, getting to a potential client or partner or whatever to actually starting to implement a certain strategy. You can choose any problem that usual client might face.
Let me. Currently, I'm working on a client who has a great firm. He has around it's an SME, 60 personnel in-house, and he has around 80 80 on sales on the ground. Uh, the main thing within starting that call is not just trying to do a sale. You're not here to do a sale. You're here to tell them that you understand what they're going through and you can be part of the solution that they're looking for. Mainly, I take the first call when someone calls me and tells me, hey, we found you, would love to have a meeting with you. I don't directly schedule a meeting before at least having a 30-minute call on the phone or extending that call that they're doing with the CEO, because it's normally the CEO who gets to call you because
Yeah,
these are SMEs. So that's the most amazing part, is that you directly connect with the person in charge. No need for multi-levels, which comes with the bigger enterprises. And from there, I get to understand what they're going through. The aim is not just to, first of all, figure out if you need a meeting or not. It's to figure out if your services can be allocated into that problem, yes or no. Um, After you give and take, and what I normally do is I don't go for uh, trying to tell them, well, listen, we'll set a meeting. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Sometimes I start with giving out free stuff, tips, mini strategies, stuff that they can start working on just to have some traction so that whatever problem is occurring doesn't get aggravated and moved into another place where we cannot fix it.
yeah,
This helps them create trust. So you're not there for the money, you're there to help. Money comes later on. So that's how the initial call starts. You talk with them, you give them what you think about what's going on through with them. You take all the variables, you ask all the questions that you relate, you take all the data that you want. And from there, you will understand either you can be part of the fix or not. And that's the most interesting part. And for me, that's the most initial and highest priority, because if I'm not part of the fix, I prefer not to send neither a proposal nor try to take on a meeting nor try to make money out of the client, because they're already in a bad place. And ethically speaking, if I will be working like this, word of mouth is very fast, so that it
definitely.
can spread to different multiple CEOs of different companies saying, don't work with this guy. This guy just hassled us for some money. So I prefer not. If it didn't work out because I cannot fix, believe me, I give the project to someone who I already know, and they might be a competitor for me, by the way.
Yeah,
But the aim is just to figure out that uh, you do the call, you take on the meeting. In the meeting, you explain what you anticipate as a plan to be able to fix this. You talk some metrics about how to be able to measure everything. And before you leave, if they're into it, and you'll definitely know from there, they will ask you for a request for a they're going to request for a proposal, and this is where you send in your plan with how much you're going to charge and all of this. And eventually, here you end up in two ways. If someone is really eager to start the change, and that's amazing from management, so that really helps, and that fast forwards the process so that you don't get to wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month to close on a deal. And sometimes, sadly, some
yeah,
of them are just trying to figure out what is the type of plan and see if they can implement it internally without referring back to you. And they end up not paying. That's pretty much fine. But eventually they're going to call you back because there are
yeah,
many details that they don't know about. So this is normally the plan that I go through. As easy as it sounds, no need to go for pamphlets and stuff and go into my website and do this and you're gonna get. No need, no need. I don't do this stuff. It's my word. It's what I talk about. And if what I talk about makes sense to the other person, then you get a deal, or at least you get a lead. If they didn't close on a deal for this time because they're short on money or something happened, definitely you're the go-to guy for anything that comes up throughout the year that they will get to connect.
Yeah, yeah. And for example, this specific client, or maybe this client is ongoing, I guess. So maybe clients before, how long does usually a contract is, or do you work on a monthly basis, or maybe a year, or is it something maybe that a problem that they just want you, okay, please fix it, and that's it, or how does it usually go?
That's the biggest problem with it's not a problem. It's the idea that they don't know, and you have to make it clear. If I come to you saying, "Hey, Jean, guess what? I need you to create a strategy because I'm not having enough sales." You can just come and create, for instance, a social media campaign or whatever you want to create on a strategical end and say, well, I have a connection. They're going to create something for you to be able to create a lead generation for your company. Because that might not be the primary issue that they're facing. There might be something within the sales team. There might be something with the product. So the aim is, first of all, to make them understand that anything that comes through might not be the problem. So this is where we understand, and I make it clear. Sometimes I give one service for free, which is the analysis. So I go into the company, I create a full structured analysis on everything that I see. Okay, and I present that to the CEO or the CTO or whoever is working with me. And from there, I pinpoint and I allocate the different problems that might be affecting the result that they are seeing. And this is normally how we go with the trend. Because let me tell you something, everyone tried someone at some sort of an occasion, and everyone got either bad results or didn't get the result that they want. Okay, so companies now are very aware, if you want, on what you need to provide and what is it that they're waiting for. So they know that it's not about just paying, for instance, John, 5K for just coming in for 4 hours doing a strategical approach for whatever we have, and then he leaves. It's never about that anymore. So companies are more aware on how to go into this. Now, referring back to your question, um, it's not always tackling the issue by itself. Sometimes, believe me, one of the biggest problems that we face are not the sales, even if there's a sale dip in the company or the profit margins are very low or the company is not able to sustain. The problem becomes the owner of the company or the CTO or whoever is in charge, because there might be something that's going on with the different levels in the company that they're not aware of. And this creates the different issues and that can occur. So from that aspect, if you'd ask me what's the best approach to try and come up to a contract, to take it at least not for a month, not for six, but for a long term, or at least if you can sign a long term contract, have be the go-to person. So each time this company faces is have something amazing created at the start, like the analysis, okay, deriving the different problems that might be affecting the result that they're getting, and from there you become the point of authority for the company so that they can connect with you. So it's not anymore about can I do a project for 4 months, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it is. It's about creating a long-term relationship, which is much more beneficial on our end when we're strategizing for a company than just to make money out of a 3-month contract. And just between brackets here, let me note something. Sometimes the clients have a very limited budget, and
Yeah.
you need to know how to work with that. So sometimes the contract is not anymore about just coaching a month or giving 8 sessions of strategy or whatever it is. Sometimes the money isn't even worth. Let me be very honest about that. But this goes up to you. If you're willing to change and help the company change and excel, then by default, you just owned a line of business for the upcoming 5 years, if not 3 years.
This
Okay.
requires a
So
certain vision from you as well.
yes,
Yeah.
and you need to be really seeing that the company has a potential. You can't just go, let's assume someone wants to sell ice cream in a cup and they want to do it home and they want to do it delivery door to door. That doesn't really work. So if
Yeah.
they're having a issue with getting sales, You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna help you, because you know the concept's
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
work.
yeah,
So this is how we try to figure out, and you have to always be at least a bit aware of what's happening throughout the market. And if it's an industry that you really don't know, probably it's better to coach and not to create. There's a totally different aspect between both, so that you don't mess with the company, or or
yeah,
whatever is happening with the
yeah.
company.
To remain on this topic, I have two questions I just thought of concerning clients. So, first of all, let's say your work is done with with a certain client, and you maybe got to the results you wanted to get to, or you set up their plan and they started implementing. Since you're a one man who does this, how do you tackle your own customer service? How do you follow up? What happens after the contract or whatever is over?
No, I'm not in front of everyone. True, I am a one man,
Yeah,
but I'm not. I
yeah,
already have people who have been with me since I started. These are either freelancers or part-time people who take on everything else, because now they totally understand how the thing works. So when I finish, they know that they have to do all the follow-ups, any questionnaires, any interviews that are required. They know how to take on these. So it's not all about you. And let me tell you why. The biggest issue here is that because the service is you and your information, that means you cannot sell it in two places at once, because it requires your own intervention. You cannot just create it into to a course and just sell it. This is not something that you can sell, because each customer differs based on the variables that they get.
yeah,
So the aim is that you require to have help, at least in the back end, that takes on all the emails, all the replies, all these small tasks that can really burn your time, so that uh, you work on the biggest piece and they help you with everything that's going on.
yeah, yeah. That's actually amazing. And to stick again to the clients, have you ever had to fire a client?
Yes,
And
definitely you're gonna work with these type of
yeah, definitely. And if you had to recall maybe one client or two, what were the points that made you, okay, this is not who I want to work with, despite the money, despite the business between you?
I had a client. The last recall is 2018. I had a client who came in with a problem in relation to their product, and it's not having enough traction throughout. After my analysis, and this is what I talked at the initial stage, after my analysis, it was pretty clear that the issue is not the product nor the sales. The issue was the person by himself. He was a very aggressive, over demanding person, because for him, this is his baby. He just created it. He put too much effort, too much money into it. So everything has to work yeah,
Perfectly.
yeah, exactly
Yeah,
perfectly.
yeah,
And this is not something that you can ask from a team that you just assembled, and there's no mission involved. There's no dynamics for the company, how things can work. um, I was very clear. It's not about fighting. It's just politely saying that I don't find it possible to work with you, because whatever I propose as analysis, stating where the problems are, you do refute my analysis and you just stick back to saying, well, no, I want you to give training and create a strategy for my sales team and for this team and for this team, so that they know how to work.
yeah,
So I don't take a project. It's not about that, but even if you try, even if there's a lot of money, there's no positive outcome, because you're not fixing the problem. It's that easy. You're not fixing
yeah,
the
yeah,
problem. You can just make it worse if you don't know how to handle it. So that was the last recall I get. That's why we go back from the initial call that you get from the client, especially from SMEs when you're working with CEOs, CTOs, whoever C-suite you want to call it. Um, from there, you know if there's a chemistry between you both or not. If someone is very stubborn, they want this, and they want you to make to work on this, and they set the KPIs and the output, it's quite easy. You just don't go to the meeting,
yeah,
or you say it's not for me.
yeah. And okay, so that was it basically from the client perspective and how you actually select a client and how the work gets done. So now to go to more you as a person, I want to ask you about, if again, if you recall, what was one most notable failure you had within your career that taught you a lot, that you learned from it?
My second company.
Yeah.
I I love to work as a one-man show. I love it because it puts so much pressure that I always have to be on the go. So I have always to be working. I didn't really love to delegate, especially when you're creating something really new and raw, and it doesn't
Yeah.
really have any impact in the Middle East. Well, you just get too scared to
Yeah.
just share
Yeah.
it around.
Yeah.
So my second fail, this was the biggest failure, which really taught me because I used to do the development, the coding, I used to do the sales, I used to do the customer servicing,
Yeah.
everything that comes to mind. I even tried to learn Photoshop to do that, but I failed miserably
Yeah.
until someone really helped me on that one. But that was the thing. And from there, I learned that even if I'm trying to create as a person, you require a strategy. Even if you don't have the business running yet, you require a strategy. I had market traction. I had amazing market traction, but it was so bad from my part managing this because, as I told you, it's a one-man show that after 2.5 years of market traction, my mental health broke down and I preferred a lot to just stop because I will not be able to continue like this. So I shut everything down within one night. I talked to my clients. I said, I know I gave it for you for free for 6 months, but I'm really sorry. I have to take it away due to unforeseen circumstances. And everyone was, well, they really understood because I had good connections within the company after I showed them. So I was kind of partial friends with the HRs and whoever I've been working with. So they really understood.
Yeah.
That was the biggest failure and that was the biggest lesson.
Yeah, this is actually amazing that you passed through it. You did not stop there. Such a failure can easily stop you where you were, and you could just still be back there doing nothing. Uh, the thing is that you actually passed through, you continued on your journey, and here you are now. And speaking about that, speaking about companies and clients, and so I just have one cool question. So, has was there ever a time where your coaching has done something to a client that you did not expect it would do? Which, of course, talking on the positive side. So,
It wasn't that much positive for the person, but it was a positive aspect for the company. My coaching ended up firing two senior executives, and that was bad. I didn't anticipate that.
but it did good for the
So
company as a whole, right?
yeah,
Does
yeah.
it
Because
backfire in any
once
way?
this, no, I was amazed as much as the others were amazed because what
Yeah,
happened is that um, they were really, I'll use the term bossy. They were really bossy people, but not only bossy. The idea is that they're not very into what they do. So
yeah,
they are executives, but they're not good at it. So this put too much pressure on more than 30 employees. And this was taking the company backward, even though there's the same output, but the efficiency within the company started declining and the costs started incurring more. So, based on different, I did my final evaluation and my final study that I submitted to the company. I did a closed matrix system, which defined where it might be the problems, and the company stated for the executives to really take on trainings, and they insisted that it will not be with me, and this contract is already signed with me.
yeah.
And from that time on, things started falling until they were let.
So
Uh,
you
we
did not
got
decide on
we
this, on them getting
I
fired.
never, I never ever
Yeah,
take a decision on. I never ever take a decision. It's not my place to take a decision. I
definitely.
just lay out everything in front of them, and they have to really understand what we've been going through, and from there they decide what's the best output for the company. I get a lot of phone calls from companies I used to work with. I Today I had a phone call for someone. You know that currently in our in Lebanon, we're having too much issues with the dollar and the LBP fluctuations.
Definitely.
And the company is really on the go, but they cannot handle the costs anymore because everything that they work with is kind of imported. Sorry. We talked. I told him how I see things, but definitely we continued the discussion as in what do you think is the most appropriate approach after you had all these variables? We discussed all these variables. What do you think in your mind is the best approach? And there's a trick here. Either you are someone who directs people, and that's the bad way of doing business because it's like you're still telling them, stop here, stop here. So, what do you think? That's directing people. And the other approach of coaching is trying to create whatever variables and make them really understand what they're in and asking them with the new information that you have now, where do you see yourself going? That's the best approach. And that takes less, you're not liable on the output because it's not you who's taking the decision. It's someone with 100% logical answer in their head on how the company needs to direct itself.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, really, thank you for this answer. It was super beneficial for me first, then maybe for whoever watches this. I still have one question that I ask several guests. What advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue a career similar to yours?
Uh, Read a lot, uh, understand the history of companies and how they grew. Don't read the success stories, read the fails. Look at their cash flows. Look at how they were taking on different metrics. Learn on their sales. Understand the environment they were operating in. You know, I totally respect old companies. It's not like now. Man, old companies or companies in the 1980s and the 1970s who really boomed, and people say, well, they were lucky they started early. No, that's not the case. They weren't that lucky because they didn't have internet. They didn't have a way to tell people they exist. They had to do everything the hard way.
Yeah,
Going on national TV costed too much money, and television sets were kind of uh, limited. If not everyone has it now. Like it's something normal to have 3, 4 TVs at home.
yeah,
So they really fought and they really worked the system in a very smart way to be able really to attain. And we're not talking home delivery. They had to go brick and mortar stores. They had to take on inventory, shelf life, high costs, high turnovers. It was a huge, and these people make it. So you have to start from there, really understand which type do you really like to read about. And from there, what is it that you really want to help in?
yeah,
No need to be as in a strategy only. No, you can be my main division of expertise is employee engagement. I can create a strategy for a company and a full system for any company to make them have more sales, more profit, more output with what they currently have and have a better efficiency. That's my main aim. So I work very much on the functional strategy or the functional levels and case strategy on the functional levels. Um, to be really honest, it's all about proceeding and learning from your mistakes and learning from the companies that you work with. There's no notebook that can really help you and tell you, well, this is how you need to. Sales are changing. You already know you're in the business.
yeah,
You cannot just do cold calling anymore. No one really
yeah, definitely,
cares about
definitely.
really
Yeah,
answering your
yeah.
phone. So everything's changing. So we have to cope with whatever changes are coming our way and uh, experience from everything in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you as well to maybe conclude this podcast with an advice, but you already gave a great one actually. So if you want to conclude it with anything for the people who will watch this, your community, my community, please go ahead and do it, and this will be the wrap of this podcast.
All I want to say is never do something for the money, never do something for the fame, because this is what we're going through right now. And adapt, as things change. One part of the strategy is adaptation. So for now, we have too much external factors running in our country. So the smartest way is how to adapt or how to limit your losses as much as possible. The one thing I was telling a friend today, he has a company. I told him there's two types of losses. There's one which you can take on yourself and it's still called a loss. And there's one that will break you apart and will make you run out of business. Work currently on what you can handle, even if it's a loss, so that when everything comes back to normal, if you want to say it, okay, at least you have the energy to go through. So the only thing I really ask people is, if you have something, it's gonna take you a lot of time to make it to achieve it. Nothing is gonna happen in the first month, nor the two. You're not gonna become a millionaire within the first 6 months to 1 year. If you read strategy about the companies, no company has.
Yeah.
It's a very small number of a plus, okay, from the first year of launch. Everyone was at a minus. For the first 3 years, everyone was at a minus. But that's the amazing part. If you know how to change that, this is where you'll be able to create everything. And I don't think it's only one business that you'll be able to grow. Anything that comes to mind, it will be a piece of cake.
Yeah. So with that, this is an amazing, amazing, highly valuable advice. So, Coach, I really want to thank you for the time you gave us. It's been more than 30 minutes, I think. It was an amazing episode full of value. I'm most probably gonna watch it more than 3 times, 4 times, just to learn from it. And
You have my number. Give me a call. No
yeah,
need. We'll
definitely,
discuss. We'll have fun.
definitely. And our communities will benefit from this a lot. Guys, whoever wants to follow Coach Charbel, you will find his socials in the description link. And yep, this is it. Thank you so much, Coach.
John, thank you so much for having me, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.